Everyone who plays a card game has a deck that they love and just refuse to put down ever since they built it for the first time. For me in Magic the Gathering, it's always been either my dragons or my goblins. But for the Yu-Gi-Oh card game, I've always been playing Plant Synchro ever since the introduction of Black Rose Dragon. I love the card, it's probably my favorite monster in the game. When I originally first got my Black Roses, I didn't have the plant support to build it, so I was using a lot of suboptimal cards, but slowly but surely collected them and built together a deck that I became pretty well known for in my gaming circle, to the point that the deck name was called SIG, for signature, because we were kind of goofy and all of us had a deck that we played all the time, which we called our signature deck, because we like to act like we were Yugi from the show or something. But since then, the deck has kind of fallen out in power rating until I discovered a little archetype called Predaplant when I came back into the game just recently. And well, this is basically the next step for that deck for me, so enjoy arguably my favorite deck in all the game. Alright, so here we are at the profile page. We've got, you're going to want to play 3 Predadragons, 3 Predaplant Spinodinias, 3 Predaplant Orphis Scorpios, 3 Darlingtona Cobra, 3 Twilight Rose Knight, 3 Lone Fire Blossom, 2 Predaplant Fly Traps, and then 1 Spore, 1 Predaplant Saracent, 1 Glow Bulb, 2 Copy Plants. And then for your spell card lineup, you're going to want 2 Instant Fusions, 2 Return of the Dragon Lords, 1 Polymerization, 1 Reinforcement of the Army, 2 Fusion Substitutes, 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Monster Reborn, 3 Predapronics, and 3 Predaprunings. In your extra deck, you're looking at 1 Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, 1 Predaplant Chimera Rafflesia, 1 Sea Monster Theseus, 1 Ultimaya Dazolkin, 1 Trishula Dragon of the Ice Barrier, 1 Vermilion Dragon Mech, 1 Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, 1 Scarlight Red Dragon Archfiend, 1 Stardust Dragon, 1 Clear Wing Synchro Dragon, your only 2 of Black Rose Dragon for your extra deck, 1 Coral Dragon, 1 Wee Witch's Apprentice, and 1 Lentfolix. Now, the reason why we play this particular strange combination is your Instant Fusion is good for getting out your Sea Monster, which can verify your plays when you only have your smaller monsters and no tuners. Also, between it and Cyber Dragon, since you want to go second in this deck, you can get out Ultimaya, but you're going to want to get out a Link. In all respects, this is probably the #1 card you can drop out of your extra deck to put in something better. I personally highly suggest White Aura Whale, or you can go into more Link shenanigans, including Synchro Link shenanigans with Needle Fiber. I personally chose to not use any OCG cards for this build, though. Now, your Return of the Dragon Lords can save Black Rose from its own effect, or bring it back and bring back any of your big hitters that you make. Except for this guy right here. Fusion Substitutes are amazing, since Venom can only be made while on the field, and it's really easy to get 2 dark monsters, but you're going to want your 1 Poly just in case you need to make Chimera Rafflesia. If you want to make room in the deck for some of the more powerful cards, 1 Fusion Substitute would be a suggestion. Sacrosanct is also really helpful, but also a good card to cut. This Twilight Rose Knight is your main playmaker. You can summon it, and then if you have Lone Fire Blossom or Scorpio, you will make Trishula on your first play. If you have it and Cyber Dragon, and you got to go second, and they have a monster, you will get a level 8. If you have it and Dinosphenia, or Orphis Scorpio, you could also choose to go into Clear Wing or Black Rose Dragon. And through the use of these level 1 tuners and Spore who can come back, you can easily make Crystal Wing. That plays really well. The reason why we're running Coral Dragon is because if you have one of your smaller tuners, a bigger monster, or your Twilight Rose Knight and say Cobra, you have something you can go into, and Coral Dragon's pretty good. This board, this deck is a kind of a board-breaking deck. You want to go second because you can build something that's going to disrupt their board in some way. Trishula can banish things. Like I banished Chaos Max and want to dump their resources in. Vermilion blows things up. Scarlight can most often wipe the board in Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! With Link Summoning and Spam becoming a very prominent playstyle. The only real defensive cards you're going to have are going to be Crystal Wing, Stardust, and Clear Wing. Everything else is much more aggressive in this deck, and you want to play aggressive in this deck. You want to respond to your opponent, break their board, and then punch on them. The thing to look out for is don't overextend with this deck. If you overextend and try to drop as much as you can on the board, and they counteract and break your board, you'll have to rely on your recovery cards, which there are quite a bit. I mean, you're playing 7, 8, 9 cards to get stuff out of your graveyard, but you don't want to do that. You want to be able to respond to your opponent's next play. Now, you can obviously make this deck better by including some more powerful Synchro monsters, as mentioned earlier. You can put in Crystron Needle Fiber, do that, to get out Formula Synchron, or even Coral Dragon, since he is a Synchro tuner. Predablast can help the deck by getting counters out on the board. Designator to the Grave is a great option because it can stop your opponent from hand-trapping you and stopping your Twilight Rose Knight play with Ash Blossom. Raigeki is just a great generic board wipe and really fits into the deck's overall playstyle. These three are just kind of more Link monsters that you can choose to go into because you can make Decode Talker using the same combo you can use to make Trishula. I just chose not to use him overall because, again, he's a much more defensive style card, and this deck wants to break boards. You can, of course, run more fusions because this actually is based off of Predaplants, which is a fusion archetype. So you can definitely get more fusions, and without even really changing up your main deck, just focusing on changing up your extra deck. Effect Veiler because it stops those pesky negation cards, specifically things like Cyber Dragon Infinity. You also have Predaplant Vexia Ogre, which if you can get a Predacounter, acts like a Kaiju, except for you get this card, and you get a level 6 tuner, which can be kind of awkward, but it can allow you to go into Vermilion Dragon Mech with your level 3 monsters. So that's the main thing, is you're gonna see a lot of this deck going second and it breaking boards. It does not necessarily OTK, but it has done it in hard testing once or twice, due to Wii Witchling Apprentice giving all dark monsters a boost. You can swarm the field and you have a 1900, and then you got a 1500 there, a 1700 there, a 1500 there. It can add up extremely quickly, especially if you've dropped something like Scarlet Dragon or Dragon Archfiend, who can be at 3500 because he's dark attributes. The main thing with her is when she's destroyed, she brings back some of your combo pieces, and that's something very useful. This is just a generic Link 2 that you can go into if you don't have 2 dark monsters. But that's it. That's the main thing about this deck. Now one other tip I'd like to give is on Lone Fire Blossom. You may look at this and think it's just used to do the typical Predaplant engine shenanigans of bouncing from one Lone Fire Blossom to the next, but actually, most of the time, you're going to want to go get whatever combo piece you don't have with it. Not necessarily go through the whole Predaplant, because you don't really need to deck them. We're not playing Desires because we want pieces in our deck. Between Scorpio and Blossom, you want as many combo pieces sitting in your deck as possible. Foolish Burial is mostly there just to get rid of Cyber Dragons, or dump either Glow Bulb or Spore into your graveyard. So that's it. I'll leave you to the replays. Enjoy.
And now for something completely different.
Hey there, Mr. Cutie. Mr. Cutie. Oh. Who's a cutie? Who's a cutie kitty? Oh.